The Blades Ramble is proudly sponsored by My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. Contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk for more information or follow the link in the description below.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
Well, what a start that is. So, welcome back to the Blades Ramble. We are trying something new. Can you tell? I'm, of course, Jimmy, and this is the stream about Ruben Selles. Selles, I'm saying it properly. So, thank you to everybody that's chucking in that I'm muted. I appreciate that. I've twigged that now. We are sorted, hopefully. Can anybody hear me now? Anybody hear me now? Hear me now, hear me now. Dad's trying to ring me. What's he trying to ring me for? He won't be watching. Any better? Any better? Let me know quickly in the comments. I can hear myself. There we go. There we go. Thank you, everybody. We are using something in terms of new tech, as you can probably tell. This will be staying once I get my head around it. Thank you to everybody that has helped me out with it. Christian in particular from Footy Social Club, very much appreciated. Go over and support their channel if you're not already. I appreciate this is widescreen. Some may say that widescreen will suit me, but that would just be cruel. What I will say is this is more just to test the waters. As you can probably tell, we have not... you can fool anybody into thinking you're professional until something like that happens. So, hey up, it's starting to work, this. So... T Mills says, go back on mute. Unbelievable. We're getting some comments through loud and clear, says Pete. Look at this, how it comes up on here. I know you may have seen it on like Connor and Callum's streams at Footy Social Club if you're following them over there. If you've commented before I've gone live, I don't think it pulls your comment through, which I've spoken to them about, and we're going to try and see if we can change. Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Let's have a look. Morning, Jimmy, says Neil. Morning, Jimmy from Turkey. Ruben is in line with what the owners want. CW did a brilliant job, but in his in-game management wasn't best. Never a plan B or a plan C. Up the ramble, up the blades. Like and subscribe. Okay, so after a bit of a rocky start, as you've come to expect on the ramble, we're here to talk about Ruben Selles. Dave the Nose will go mad with me if I don't call him by his correct pronunciation. I appreciate we did a long stream last night and I didn't get through a lot of comments. So this is a solo stream solely focused on hearing what you guys have to say. We will get used to this new tech as it goes through and I will get better at it. But we'll see. We'll have to see. It's trial and error, isn't it? We're trying to level up all the time. And I think it looks absolutely class. It won't always be necessary, I don't think, for these sort of streams. But what I think it will do is when there's a thing that comes up on the side, which I can do in a different stream, which we can do when talking about transfers and we can do when talking about particularly the watch-alongs, to be fair. I think that it will really benefit the watch-alongs. So Ruben Sellés announced last night. I've just had to turn my thing down because I could hear myself again, sort of getting used to the new surroundings. But Ruben Sellés came in last night and there was a lot of talk about how the club announced it. We knew it was coming. I were on a watch along with Jord doing the Club World Cup. Man City had just beaten. Why, Dad? Why? They'd just beaten them 2-0, and the game was about to finish. I think it were 89 minutes when it broke that Sheffield United had they mutually agreed to relieve Chris Wilder of his duties. There were no mutual agreement about it, let's be right. So that was okay. It was late. I couldn't tell you the exact time, but I know it was late. And my impression was, and to be honest, when I first read it out, we went live to talk about it, and then I first read the statement, and it hit me hard. It was like, oh, we've known this would come in, but it stings a little bit now. It's not really the sort of smooth transition that I thought I had in my head since I'd got used to it and we'd had a bit of time. Seeing it in black and white was quite a shock, really, even though we knew it would come in. But you think, oh, that's all right, actually. The club had listed it really well in terms of his achievements. And then you get the announcement that we've appointed Ruben Sellés. So we didn't get a chance to really sort of... I thought they were giving us the evening to think about Wilder and all he'd done for us. And then they were going to move on to the natural next step, which is appointing Ruben Sellés. And initially my thoughts were, that's a little bit cold. That's a little bit cold for me. And the thing that I was more sort of not annoyed about, that's a strong word to say, but disappointed in was that we didn't get a press conference to announce the new manager. I didn't necessarily expect Stephen Rosen and Helmi Atuki to be sat either side of him. It would most likely be Stephen Bettis, but it'd have been nice for the local press and the national press, obviously, but Danny All at Sheffield Star and Radio Sheffield and Football 11, Blades Ramble, if they'll ever have us, to ask some of the questions that the fans are after, similar to what Bob Dyson put in his email to Steve Bettis. So Bob Dyson, part of the fan advisory board, just wants clarity on where we are going as a football club. I think the statements put out by the club went some way towards highlighting the approach that they're going to go with. And having slept on it, which was always the reason for doing a stream this morning, then maybe, just maybe, this was done intentionally, and this is forthright, and it's a sharp way of doing things in terms of, look, clear the sentiment. We always talk about, in terms of player turnover, we always talk about there's no room for sentiment. Maybe they're having that approach with Chris Wilder. And I've spoke to Man Mountain early doors this morning. I don't mean to speak for him, and he'll have plenty of chance to say it on stream, because we're hoping to go live at some point over the next coming days and speak to both him and Dave the Nose. We'll do a 3MB at some stage if we can. And he's excited by the future. He has already, we've known for a week, haven't we? So he's already got his head around the fact that he's going or he's gone. And Ruben Sellés is a really well-regarded manager in certain circles. He's an intelligent man. There's a Harley Dean clip doing the rounds now from under the Kosh, who played under him at Reading, and he talked about how he's like no other manager he's worked for, talking about vertical lines and talking about basically clearing what you've already got in your head as what you're supposed to do as a footballer and rebuilding it and trying to adapt to a different way of thinking, not only playing, but way of thinking and approaching the game. He talks about half spaces. He did a really good interview with not the top 20 boys, and when he was Hull manager and first appointed, and talked about how he got one over on Leeds United, and he obviously got one over on Sheffield United as well. So it's unproven. It's still a risk. But I want to know this morning what you guys think about Ruben Sellés as the manager. So we did a lot about Chris Wilder last night, and I think it was right that we did that. But this morning, we're looking forward a little bit, and we're looking forward to what I think could be an exciting new era under a new manager. So let me start to get some of these comments up and try and work out how to use this bit of kit. Apologies again for the faux pas early doors. Brett says, I hope the owner's trying to do this on a good budget and not just youth players, because youth players are cheap. Need some quality prospects in the team, and I'll be even more positive. Up the Ramble on YouTube. We're only on YouTube at the moment because we're using this new software. We're not live on any other platforms. It's not yet linked up to other platforms, and that's probably good because less eyes will have seen that he mess up early doors. But anyway, we move on. Joe says, after sleeping on it, I feel positive about the appointment. A few good things being said about Sayers on his way. One thing I've heard is players will certainly be fit enough. Big window ahead. That's another big concern that people have had about how we played. I won't say Chris Wilder, but how we played last season. It's certainly on his watch, which I think we have to be open and straight about. I don't think the players have been fit enough. Certainly, some players. Gus Amer cannot finish a game most weeks. Ty Campbell, who has notoriously struggled with injury, so will have to be carefully managed. Very, very. I don't think has he completed 90 minutes. I'm not sure he has. But all sorts of other little things that have niggled. And yes, we don't have the long-term injuries like we used to do, which is a huge positive. But are we being a little bit softer in training? This is purely speculative. Are we sort of easing off so that we get more players available? We need players to be fit, don't we? We need to be. He's talking about strangling teams, and he's talking about going for jugular on, vertical lines and stuff like that. Sayings that we haven't heard. It's more. This is going to be a completely different approach to chest beating and going and trying to run faster and tackle harder than the opposition, which is Chris Wilder is a tactical manager, and I won't have anybody. I will, quite easily have a debate with anybody that is tactically gifted, but I think he's overridden sometimes by what he gets the players to buy into in terms of enthusiasm and passion and playing for the shirt, which we love as Unitedites. But Ruben Sellés is more an all business kind of guy, and I think there will be a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. I think there will be a lot of work done before and after all games, and I'm excited to see where he goes with it. Now that we need to now take Chris Wilder out of the equation, because that's exactly what the board have done. And how are we feeling now that we have to accept, and we should accept, that Ruben Sellés is the man? How do we get behind him? How do we start looking forward to next season? That's the focus this morning. Cole says, morning, Jimmy. Feel optimistic after a night's sleep to settle the dust about the situation. Love Chris, but we now have to move on. Feel like Chris knew he would move eventually, and we'll take comfort maybe knowing he's gone out the front door. Absolutely right. Something we talked about last night, and I think that's fair. He certainly has done this time. Anyway, life moves on, and I pose the question, have you brewed up a new Sayers chant yet, Jim? Up. Our Spanish saviour can bring a breath of fresh air and bring something new to the lane. Biggest shift since Slav, and we know how that ended. I've no chance yet, Cole, but I'm happy to try and come up with one, pal. We shall see. I feel ill that it might have been the last time I've seen Rian in a Sheffield United shirt, says Beast Boy. Although I'm gutted that Rian's leaving. I'm glad we didn't get O'Neill. He is shocking. Yeah, Rian will be leaving. I'm more convinced now than ever. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. If Sayers sees him as a part of the team and part of the plans, but I can't see it. I think we'll be going for young, fit, dynamic. Might bring in a couple of, veterans, I suppose. But I think you've got some of those in the side already. Gus Amer is bordering on that in terms of a star player. And what is he, 27 now? Wiley, decent player at the level. Decent goes without saying, but it's exciting. Sprinkling in a bit of youth and bringing down. Wilder's already done a fantastic job in bringing the squad age down, but I think we've got such an established top-end championship side in terms of Michael Cooper, Harrison Burrows, Gus Amer, Callum O'Hare, Tyrese Campbell. These are really strong players, and if you litter that in and around with high potential players, which is what we're rumoured to be, certainly in the immediate future, rumoured to be going after, I think it's an exciting time for the clubs. Toddy says, club needs to back Sayers properly in the window now. They need to get this correct, or it'll go sour very quickly down at the lane. Down at the lane, where the Bladesmen go. That's Disco Dave for all you old-time Ramble fans. Steve Brooks says, the big question for me is, how will the squad react to the manner in which Wilder was sacked and treated? Whilst not Sayers' fault, it's a player revolt to some degree. A player revolt to some degree is a possibility. I disagree, Steve, and this is just my opinion. I don't think there'll be any sort of player revolt. I think they will understand the business side of football, as will Chris Wilder. And if they use this as a reason to want to leave the club, then they didn't want to stay at the club anyway, did they? They're not giving Sayers a chance. They don't know him, a lot of them, I assume. So we'll wait and see what comes of it. Woke up this morning feeling down. But couldn't think why. Then I remembered Wilder's gone again, says Tim. However, as usual, I'm optimistic about the future. I hope Sellés hits the ground running. Yeah, me too. Christian from Footy Social Club says, morning, Jimmy Sellés is an interesting appointment. It feels like a backward step. The manager has not set this level of football alight. However, the Blades must now back him up the Ramble. Top man and up the Footy Social Club as well. Thank you. For anybody that's not following Christian over there, go and do us a solid and help him out. Lee says, as a Wilder supporter, I'm not happy with the way it ended, but as a Blade, I will give it 100% of my support to the new manager, Ruben Sellés. And staff players will move on. Our club remains up the Blades. And thank you, mate. That is a sentiment that Wilder often referred to himself, weren't it? Lee says, he's the leader of our team, and it's not his issue how he got to that role. His only job is to focus on getting the best Sheffield United out on the pitch and getting us out of this league. I support him. Nice, mate. Nice. Andrew says it's not Sayers' fault, but he's under huge pressure before a ball is kicked. If we go 1-0 down in the first game of the season, the Wilder chance will start. COH Sports turned a lot of us already up the Ramble. That is one way of looking at it, Andy, and you're not wrong. If things go sour, then it will accelerate in terms of the sour feeling towards everything that's happened at the club. However, there's also a possibility that we could dominate our first game and we could strangle the opposition and we might win it 3-0. And then, like is always in football, it's what have you done for me lately, isn't it? So Chris Wilder, because of what he has done for the club and because of who he is, will never be forgotten by this football club. But if we are top after 5 games and have conceded 2 goals and scored 14, it will be all aboard the Spanish Express or whatever we want to call it. Who knows? 38% win ratio, this guy. It's like dumping Pamela Anderson for Jordan. Context, though, Scott. Context. What's he had to play with? If you put Wilder in a Hull side, I think he'd do well as well. But he wouldn't have the same win percentage as he does at Sheffield United because there's so much better options to play with. So he came in. The club was bottom of the league. This being Hull, and he got him up to 13th, 14th in the league. For those that didn't see it last night, I'm just going to quickly play out one of the 2 videos that that we played last night. I'm going to try and do it anyway, because obviously we all know how this has gone so far this morning. But just have a listen to Joe from To Hull and Back podcast.
Hello everyone, it's Joe Collins here from the To Hull and Back podcast. Ruben Sellés then, going to the Blades, to Sheffield United. I think this is a very good appointment, and it's yet another example of our ownership sacking a manager who has then gone on and got a much better job. Rosenior fell upwards and Ruben Sellés has done the same. There's a lot of doubt I've seen on social media as like, oh, how has he got this job? He's been, where I saw used mid everywhere he's been. But that's not the case. Reading, he had the time to get a handle on a difficult situation, and he had them fighting for the playoffs before he made the move to the MKM Stadium in January last year. He took over a team that was bottom of the table, ended up being the league's lowest scorers, but our team was devoid of any sort of attacking threat, really. Our top scorer scored 6 goals all season, and you know, we lost our 2 best wingers to ACLs. Louis Barry came in and got a serious knee injury, so we didn't really see any of him. And Elliot Matazo in central midfield, who we brought in January, unbelievable player, also got an ACL. So Ruben was dealt a really difficult hand, but he kept us up. That was his job when he came in, and he made us the 4th best defensive team in the league from when he took over, behind only Sheffield United, Burnley and Leeds. That's a good record, and I'm glad that his sacking hasn't tarnished. His sacking here hasn't tarnished his career, hasn't sort of put a black mark against his name, because it was never a doubt in my mind that he is a solid well, for us, that was going to go on and be a solid, at least, championship manager and could help us push up the table again. We were 14th in the form table from when he took over to the end of the season, which, when you consider the injuries we had and the hand he was dealt, isn't too bad. Isn't too bad at all. And had we had Ruben Sellés from the start, we'd have been nowhere near relegation, which is good enough for me. I understand why some are sort of hesitant, but Ruben is a good manager. I've spent a fair bit of time with Ruben as well. He's a nice man. He's a lovely guy, smart, switched on. He's quite coy when it comes to transfers, impresses, doesn't give much away. But he's a good manager. He's a good bloke. And I think he'll be a very, very good appointment for Sheffield United. With attacking players, he can play more expansive football and get more goals out of the players at his disposal. So I don't think the way he was playing with us is how he wants to play football. In terms of his assistants as well, just quickly, he'll probably bring in James Oliver-Pierce and Toby Loveland as his 2 assistants, who are, they're both switched on coaches as well. They know what they're talking about. Thank you.
Cheers to Joey for that. Thank you, pal. Hopefully that gives people a little bit more comfort, knowing what we're getting into. Again, it's we are a little bit more comfortable with these surroundings now for me in terms of this setup, but it's a lot for me to get my head around. So thank you for everybody for being so patient with me this morning. Rich says, morning, Jimmy. What a huge gamble this is from the board. But I guess that's the business Steve is in, and he's done very well so far. I hope he's got this one right, but fear the worst. Up all the rambles, like and subscribe. Thank you, Rich. That's Steve Rosen. Obviously. Johnny boy. Morning, Jimmy. Gutted over the CW sacking. Cannot bring myself to watch Ruben's interview. It's too early. Yeah. You have to be at a certain point, don't you? You have to be at a certain point. I ain't watched the Sellers interview either. As above said, it's far too early. Tony says, good morning. Today's the first day of new Sheffield United FC. What we've done for the last 135 years hasn't worked, so I think it's as good time as any up the blades. Ray says, morning, Jimmy and all. Well, it's a new chapter now, so we have to back the new manager and regime. Hopefully it turns out to be a masterstroke. Up the blades, up all the rambles, like and subscribe. Thank you to everybody that then told me I was muted. Fully agree, pal. What a way with words. Nice, Tony. Nice, mate. Wanted to keep Chris, but Sayers known for attacking play, pressing, developing youngsters. If Chris had to step down, say family reasons, he'd be happy with this appointment. Let's get behind Sayers. Well, thankfully, it wasn't for family reasons, but I understand the point that you're making, pal. Morning, Jimmy and Ramblers. Just purchased my Blades Ramble cap. Turn it up, Jimmy, or use sign language. Yes, thank you, everybody. Bryce says, morning, Jimmy, up the blades. All the best to the new manager. Everybody laughing at me, which is fine. It's the way we like to go on the channel. Where are we? I'm just going to skip past a load of these. Then it starts to go the other way. This is interesting, the way this works. So it gives me the... Oh, my word. It's a good job we're an open channel that sort of doesn't even try and be anything that we're not. So here we go. Podcast via AI. Dane says, loved what? Here we go. We're up and running now. We sound sweet. I would have played Sam's Hull City fan channel clip as well. Apologies, Sam. I'm not going to play that just in case all goes wrong. Love CW, but ultimately he failed in the goal from when the new owners came in. It was backed in January, sat second, and we're still in the championship. So I can see why we've gone for a change. Back Ruben Sellés up the blades. Well said, Dano. Looking clean, says what lineup builder. Yeah, I wish it was as professional as it looks, and we will get there. We will get there, undoubtedly. Got to do. Morning, Jimmy and the Ramblers. Good start. Up all the rambles, up the blades, like and subscribe. Up the rambles, says Adam. People writing him off already. Not been given the right tools or best scenario in his past roles. Give the guy a chance, Blades. Time to modernise Sheffield United. Up the blades, up the ramble. I agree completely. I agree in terms of it's different for us, but it's also a huge opportunity for him. And everything that we're looking at about Ruben Sellés, if you look past just the stats in terms of his win percentages and stuff like that, which you can't really quantify because it's working with a different set of tools that he's got now going to have at Sheffield United, it's a completely different ball game. And there's a chance here that he can level up with us as we try and level up as a club. Rich says, morning all, love the graphics. Hope the Sellers start is a good start. Matt says, was surprised at how hard it seemed to hit you and Dave yesterday. The last week of news watered the emotions down for me. Either way, it's done. Quietly optimistic now after hearing Sayers' interview. Yeah, it did. It kind of hit us a little bit. More so than I were expecting, because I thought in my head that I got my head around it. I clearly hadn't. It was more like, right, this is what's happening. What do we need to think about? Who's coming in? Then we knew that. And then we have to sort of, right, so this is going to be the kit. We're a bit more business-like, I suppose, in terms of, right, I need to switch my focus to this now. But then you stop for a minute and you read firstly, the piece that the club put out, but then the bit that Wilder put out as well. And it makes it very real. And it is the end of an era for a manager that, and again, we're not going to focus on Chris Wilder too much on this stream, because that was last night. And this is a new day, isn't it? This is Ruben Sellés, Sheffield United now. And that's what we're going to look to today. But Chris Wilder deserves that respect and that support. So that's why it got to us a little bit, I think, last night. Jack says new owners would always want their own gaffer. I think Wilder might have been sacked even if we went up. I don't think so. I think he'd have been given a bit more time because he would have achieved ultimately what he needed to do. Hearing you loud and clear, Jimmy. Thank you, John. Feeling much better about things, says Peak. Thank you as well for becoming a Platinum Rambler, Peak. Appreciate that. I've seen that come through. We now know what's happening. Wilder will always be one of our own. Let's get behind Ruben and the Blades. Nick says, morning, Jimmy. I'm feeling positive about Sayers coming in. Front-footed, attacking football. Let's hope the board back in with signings now. Up the Blades. Up all the Rambles. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Josh says, the future's bright. The future's red and white. Absolutely. David says, morning, Jimmy. Such a bad decision by the board. Feel like the board have let us down. Some people will continue to feel like this, but we don't know yet, do we? It's a perceived bad decision by some. For me, I would categorize it more as a huge risk and a huge gamble. But they're doing it for the right reasons. They're not doing it to set Sheffield United back. They're not doing it for a cheap option, because that would be counterproductive when you've got parachute payments. And the quickest way for them to make a return on their investment is Premier League football. They are doing it for certainly the way that they are discussing it is for the long-term benefit of the football club. And it's something completely different to what we're used to. So we'll see. We'll see. I think it's a case. It's not a trust the process. This is what we said last night. It's not a case of trust the process, because we've no idea what the process is. It's let it play out and give him a chance. Andy says, listening to you from Lisbon Airport. I'm glad you can, pal, because you might not have done if you tuned in early doors. Gutted for Wilder, but think he took playoff disappointment personally. And as has been said, who can motivate the motivator? With that all together, he says it's probably the right decision. Max says, really unsure how to feel about it all. I know, mate. I know you're not alone. I think there's a lot of people in that middle ground at the minute. Morning, Jimmy says, Rich, the messages you're reading out, the text is very small. That's just the way that it's set up, mate, on the stream. I can't do much about that, I'm afraid. Saying S, it is then, not Sellers. Say yes. Yeah, say yes, sorry. Say yes, it is then, not Sellers. But big thanks to Chris, Nilly, and the staff departing. Will never be forgotten. So I wish them all well in the future. Absolutely right, Ray. Yeah, so it's say yes, apparently, rather than Sellés, which is going to be really tricky for me to get my head around. I don't know why, but it just doesn't feel right to say yes. It seems like I'm doing a bit of a Del Boy. You know, like Juan, another Dos Cervezos, Juan. Chris says, let's move on now. The new owners, a new manager, same old ground. Can't wait for the fixtures to come out. 26. Just wonder if he played Holding more in place of Robbo, it would be a different story. That is just one of the question marks over this recent reign, and that one that we've talked about openly on the channel perplexed me completely. He will have his reasons. He will know exactly why. He's not daft. He knows the game. He's done enough. He's done more in the game than any of us on stream, hasn't he, to be fair? And there's a reason he will be revered as one of the best Sheffield United managers ever. So, again, we don't know the reasons for it. As a layman and as an outsider looking in with no knowledge of why, it's an odd one at best for me. Cooler King says it was a bit bad PR, a bit of a PR own goal by the club last night. There's no blame on Selles personally, say yes, for that. So I hope he doesn't get the flack for it. A few will be looking for any old stick to beat him with. Yeah, I agree. Looks mint, them new graphics, mate. Up the blades, up the ramble. It'll look even better, pal, when we've got something that's... I love it, by the way. And I hope the sponsors appreciate it because it highlights them individually. And obviously, it gives you a sub-ticker as well, which I think is really cool. So there's all sorts of little things that I really like about it. But when we're doing things like watch-alongs, which you might have seen on Cal and Connor's stuff, and transfer rumour videos and stuff, you can get a big screen here next to me. And it goes through all the relevant stuff that you're talking about. So it's an upgrade for the channel. And as you can see, it's a little bit difficult for me to get my head around initially. I've not been looking forward to... I have been, because I'm always looking to upgrade. I'm always looking to get 1% better every time. But then if you're not confident with something, it's a little bit of a kick to your confidence sometimes when you go... I was really comfortable. We used StreamYard before. Apologies to go off topic slightly, but we've always been quite an open place, haven't we? Used StreamYard before, still got a StreamYard subscription. We'll continue to use StreamYard for bits. But I was super comfortable with that, super comfortable. And it's something I've really got my head around. It's really easy to... I've spoken to Dave the Nose and Man Mountain about how to navigate the way around. Really easy to sort of talk people through. This is quite complex because it's higher level. There's all sorts of moving parts. There will be an easier way that I can do it, but I wanted to do it sort of raw in terms of just producing it myself, so I get my head around. And it's going to be I knew it might have been a bumpy ride, so this morning it's perfect course, isn't it? I think Max says will be an interesting couple of months. Interesting to see what Selles recruitment will be like. This whole Bulgarian league rubbish will simply not work. We need upgrades, not future projects. Spoke to Man Mountain, as I say, this morning. He did say, and something that stuck out to me in and amongst a lot of the things we spoke about. We all know that the current AI model has brought in 3 players, I think. 3 players so far, none of which are expected to partake in the first team immediately. There is now strong rumours. I think Darren's talked about this on X, so I'm not betraying any trusts now. A right back we're after is going to, from the Hungarian, Bulgarian sort of background, is going to be with a view to coming into the first team. If that is the next Vaspor Bokis, was Man Mountain's point this morning, all will be forgiven, because we have to go wider than paying the British tax or the English tax for EFL players and Premier League players. We have to look wider than that. And we've been trying to do that for a club unsuccessfully for some time. And Nell was the standout that we've got for cheaper than his actual value, I would say. 3.5 million. He's worth more than that when he's in a full contract. Other than that, we've not really succeeded with the data-driven model abroad. It's a huge gamble for the club. It's a huge test of our resources and the systems that we've got set up. But if we get 1 gem in 5, and, you know, the hit rate isn't great, but the rewards for that can be significant. If we pluck another Illiman and Die from a French side, then you soon forget about your Benny Traore's, don't you? No offense to Benny Traore and Anis Slimani's. I'm hoping somebody brings up another aspect to this, which we'll come on to, and you'll know when I come to it, because I'll mention it again. John says, morning, Jimmy. I think we have to back Ruben. I was extremely sad that Chris has left. However, he left us with his head held high. Now we need to focus on the future. Patience is the key. Lewis says, loving the new graphics, Jimmy. Up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. What do you just wait till I become more professional with it? and then we'll all enjoy it properly. But thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Chris says, I can understand the new owners wanting a change and cannot see how thin. How can they think Sellés is an upgrade on Wilder? It will be under immense pressure to get results from day one. I could understand if it was Cooper. It will be under big pressure, undoubtedly, as are the board, for this to be right. Would rather have got Eki back, says Rico. Do you think this is the end of Brewster and Jackie Longthroat? I do, actually, Danny. Yes, I do. And it's harsh to say I think that's a positive, because we don't know what the level is that's going to replace him. But I have to believe that he's going to be backed, because they need to back him. So it's widely known that I don't rate Jack Robinson as a top end championship player. And if we do move on from him, which I expect us to do now, then it goes with our best wishes. But I think it's the right decision to upgrade. Rain Brewster, I think, will move on as well, because I think he will be seen as an expensive player that's okay in the championship, whereas you can get better for cheaper, I think, in all honesty, because I don't want it to be seen as the penny pinching. I think it's more a case of value for money. So I think they will spend big. We've seen it with Tom Cannon. They will spend big on what they perceive to be the right player. The other thing I will say is, don't be surprised if Tom Cannon is now slotted into a system that really suits him. And there've been a lot of naysayers about Cannon, because he came in for big money and it's big pressure on his shoulders. But I won't be surprised to see Tom Cannon firing in some goals for Sheffield United next season. And I'm really looking forward to that possible prospect as well. Morning, Jim. Watching from Portugal today by the pool. Graphics looking slick, mate. Thank you, pal. Up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Swords. It says swords there because he's going for a swords emoji. But what I really like about our themes is, obviously we're red, white, and black because it's Sheffield United, but we've predominantly been black and white with a hint of red, and I think it looks really smart on these graphics. Really smart. Dino says, morning, Jimmy. I'm really excited about the new season and all the ups and downs that will bring. Really like the new look. Up the blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Thank you, Dino. Love your profile picture as well. Johnny the Clown says, there's no sentiment in business. New owners are business people. Simple as that. Personally reading no more into it than that. Me too. Me too. Sometimes you need an outside pair of eyes who are not emotionally invested in it. I'll give you an example. John Asquith, my business coach, who is watching because he's messaged me already to laugh that he could hear me talking in background while Joe's video were on. He gives me home truths that are not emotionally connected to the channel. And that's exactly what I need. So back in the day, apologies, I don't mean to make him public enemy number one with our Ramblers, but when we initially introduced the Ramblers, he wanted me to do a tier up and sort of increase the price. And that happened some time ago, and there's certainly no plans to do that again at the moment. But I was emotionally invested in those people, and I didn't want to lose those people, not just for the monetary value. And again, we're just being completely open here. But it was what's best for the business. And 99% of those people came with us and still continue to support us. So he took that decision because it was the best thing for the Blades Ramble. And that is a large part, not just that decision. And it's not all about pricing and costing and stuff. This little things like we've been planning something in the background for a long time. And one of the jigsaw pieces fell last week. So rather than run with the plan, we reassess the plan and we look at how can we put that jigsaw piece back in and maybe get a better jigsaw piece to fit there, and maybe it gets pushed back a little bit. So there's all sorts of things that my point for bringing that up is they have come in with a fresh pair of eyes, not emotionally invested in Sheffield United as a football club or Chris Wilder as a manager. And they are looking at it as, yes, he's done a brilliant job in the past, but what do we need as a football club? What structures do we and methods do we need to put in place to push us forward and see us continue to grow as a football club? So, and sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that because if it was somebody just ruling with their heart, then Chris Wilder would be the manager until he decides to retire. It's a business. It's a business. Carl says, because there's no connection to this manager, I can't see it going well between Warnock and Wilder Only Hecky did well, and even he struggled in the end. Once fans jump on him, unsettled players. It's a risk, Carl. It's a big risk, pal. And something that Clarkey talked about on Hot Topic was we don't do well historically. We always do well. Let's put it the other way. We always do well with sort of chest beating managers and passionate and grit and determination. But we've also always had a ceiling above us in terms of where we can get to as a football club. We got to 9th in the Premier League under Chris Wilder, but that was an anomaly. We've never been seen, certainly not in the last 20 years, as a 9th placed Premier League side. And it's alien to think that we could. But how do sides like Brentford and Brighton and now Bournemouth push themselves into that reckoning? Well, it's because they've got a structure and a model in place that allows them to do that. So it's completely different for Sheffield United, and it could bomb. It could go really wrong, and we might revert to type, and Chris Wilder might be back by November. I don't think he will be. I think that is his second and last stint with us. But you know the point I'm trying to make. It could also go really well. It could also be that we get automatically promoted out of this division, and Ruben Selles is the man that leads us there. Not just plays a huge part in it; he's the man that leads us there. So we've got. It's unknown, but that can be exciting as well as daunting. John says, we'll be interested to find out the composition of the coaching staff and the identity of a director of football. Any news on this I may have missed? We were looking at Brian Tinian from Bristol City as the director of football type. Whether that's his title that he comes in with, I'm not entirely sure. Seems to have cooled off in the last couple of days. I wouldn't be overly enamoured with that, to be honest. And that's just my opinion. I don't know enough about him to have a solid opinion on it. So I wouldn't poo-poo it without, doing me due diligence as much as I can. He will be bringing his 2 assistants in with him, John, as Joe said from the To Hull and Back podcast. So, and they're really well-respected English coaches as well. I believe they're English, certainly British, I think. Toby and James, can't remember the surnames. I think it's Toby and I might have even got that wrong. But yes, 2 coaches coming with him as Chris Wilder, Alan Nill, and Matt Prestige leave the club. So, like for like, in terms of numbers coming in and out, Ruben Sellés also said that they were working on bringing another well-respected coach into the club, which will be interesting to see who that is. It wasn't Wilder who lost or footy being played on the pitch at Wembley. It was the VAR that shafted us. I've gone over this. I think if we've got a ref that comes on the channel infrequently, a professional ref, and he said it was ultimately the right decision. So whether it gets pulled in play or not, then also talking about VAR being the thing that killed us at Wembley. Yes, you can argue that it killed the momentum of the game for Sheffield United. We're still 1-0 up at that point. You can't. It wasn't like it was an equaliser that would have really galvanised us and changed the game. And I know it did change the feel of the game, but we were absolutely bossing it at that point. Absolutely all over them. And 2-0 kills them. 2-0, it's done. It didn't happen. And it gave them a little bit of impetus, and they went on to win it. But they handled the occasion better than us. And you can't be bitter about a VAR decision, probably rightly calling, and that might be subjective, but probably rightly calling the goal offside. Morning, excited for Sayers. Love Wilder to bits, but perhaps it's taken us as far as it can. Future is now up the Blades, up the Ramble, and get the paella out. Peake says the fans, us, can be instrumental in how Ruben and his team transition to this new era. We should move on and get behind them. I can't wait for the new season to kick off. Yeah, me too, pal. Bobby says, in hindsight, I'm glad Wilder left us on a high rather than when he left us when we were really poor. We were in a really poor spot in the Prem. It really felt sour last time, but this time he left loved by all again. I think that's how me and Dave. I agree with you, Bobby, and thank you for commenting, pal. But that's how me and Dave sort of summed it up yesterday. He might not have physically won anything this second stint, and ultimately he's been relegated and then failed to get promoted. And we had the 3rd biggest budget in the league, as Man Mountain was saying to me this morning, and we finished 3rd. That's not applying a lot of context, but ultimately they're looking at cold hard facts, aren't they? But what he did do was he, again, appeared to bring the club back together, brought us pride in the shirt after a horrific season in the Premier League. The the challenges we faced as a football club last season, not just the 2-point deduction, not just the overturn, the team turnover in terms of players. Losing George Baldock was one of the worst tragedies that's happened to this football club. And Jamie Dumpling said it really well last night on stream. I thought it was really a brilliant point. He's so glad that Chris Wilder was the man in charge of us when that happened. And I think that's such a significant point because nobody else would. I'm not saying that's unfair to say that nobody else would have been able to handle it like he did, but he knew George. We all knew of George, and we felt close to George because he played for our team. But they all knew him. They, there was players there that played with him alongside him at Sheffield United. Chris Wilder managed him for such a long time. They had a great relationship. So he was hurting as much as anyone. And he steered the club through it, knowing what it would mean to the fan base and knowing what it would mean to everybody. And I think we handled the sadness, the genuine grief of that situation so well. And he led us through that really dark period for the club. And I think we can all look back and be proud of how the club has operated with respect to that tragedy. So, yes, it's a, and I think that warms a lot of fans to him as well, not just that aspect of it, but everything else that we mentioned. And I think he's rightly been able to patch up his reputation with the Sheffield United fans. It feels to me like he came back, and that was one of the core things he wanted to do, was repair his relationship with the few fans. It has to be said. I would say 75% of the fan base still were really behind him, but before it had been 100%, and now I think it's 98%. I think he's done absolutely everything he can to turn the fan base back in his favour. What a season he gave us last year. The football wasn't great at times, but it was winning football. 92 points, beat Wednesday twice. Again, it's not a Chris Wilder stream, this one per se, but I'm never against talking about him. He gave me my best memories as a football fan. Good luck next season from a genuine Leeds fan. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate it. Great new graphics, Jimmy. Love it. Very professional. Thank you, mate. If only we had a presenter that could sort of orchestrate it properly. Thank you, Raymondo. Much appreciated. Steve says, farewell, Chris, and best wishes for your future endeavours. This is unfortunately par for the course with new ownership in football clubs. To contend for promotion, significant investment is required. I agree, mate. A nice picture with the Messiah there as well. Matt says, was interesting to hear Sayers talk about being proactive, not reactive. I think that sums up the reason for the change in one sentence. Possibly. Sayers talked about recruiting new players, but does that mean that some of the current team will leave before the new recruits are brought in? I think there will be. Yeah, I think that's natural, isn't it, in the summer? And I think he said that himself. It's natural that we're always busy. He talked about bringing players in to make us stronger and more competitive, but we will lose one or two. I'm sure we will. That's the nature of the beast when you don't get promoted. I'm not expecting Gus Hamer to leave. That may change now. Ruben Sellés might not have him in his plans. I would be amazed. I would be absolutely amazed if he's not in the plans. I certainly don't expect Michael Cooper to leave. I think Vinny is one that we will struggle to hold on to. I think there'll be a lot of interest in him because of his profile. I think Anel being in the last year of his contract makes him vulnerable. I know there's interest around Sidney Peck as well. David says, last night was hard, but this morning is now a new start and the future starts now. I believe the appointment is right to take us forward. Exciting times ahead, style-wise and tactically. Ole, ole. Well said, Dave. Michael says, I'm an optimistic Blade for the most part, Jimmy, and I'm perfectly willing to give him my support. But at the end of the day, we all want a successful club. We're in for a very interesting few months. Yes, we are. Josh says, I think we may see players like Brooks Sariki really thrive. So from what we've heard from Joe and also Sam last night, it really has a focus on developing the youth, which some people shudder at and think, oh no, that's, again, it's the cheap option. But our youth academy is probably the best outside of Cat 1 academies in the country. We're forever winning the 21s league. And once we get to that Cat 1 status, we will really be testing ourselves at the appropriate level. But some of these players have real high ceilings. And again, it's an unproven sort of, and it's on an individual basis as well in terms of what you think of the individual players. But Sidney Peck is now what, a 10, 15 million pound player, maybe a touch more. Certainly a 15 million pound player, I would probably say, Sidney Peck, in one season. And that's under Chris Wilder, by the way. Ollie Arblaster came through our youth system. Sariki, as is mentioned here by Josh, came through our youth system. Still a little bit of work to do, but a pure athlete that's really good going forward. Andre Brooks, very inconsistent, but we've seen at times how really good he can be. Tom Cannon is 22. There's also Harrison Burrows, what, 22, 23? Cooper's 25. But what I'm saying is there is a pathway now for youth players, if they are good enough, to come into the side. I think there's too much. If we stick to one up front, there's too much in front of Ryan One for him to push his way in at the moment. If we go to two up top, maybe we see a little bit more of him, and maybe we see significant improvement. So there is the opportunity for younger players to be involved if they grasp the nettle, or whatever the saying is. Lee says, we used to play with high lines when Wilder first came into us, and it worked for us the first time we went up to the Prem. It's a shame he thought we had to change our approach and tactics this season. Me too. We were crying out for a 3-5-2 this season. Something we talked about an awful lot. Deb says, morning, Jimmy. Chris should be proud because all the fans are. Like and subscribe to the Best Blades channel. Let's get Jimmy to 10K by the start of the season on YouTube. Thank you, Debs. Appreciate that. I think that's why I'm more excited about this change. Says Lee. Steve says, moving is a must. Let's just hope he's not being brought in as a yes man and relying on video game tactics as the new owners seem to be going with. There's no that convinces me that he's a yes man. Nothing at all. And if he's part of a model where a club decision, such as like whether it's a director of football or a recruitment team, whether he's given players and only has an input into who comes in rather than a full sign-off, that is the way of modern football. That is the way things go now, and that might be the model we're looking to shift to. Less reliant on just one man and more club-based approach, and we need to make sure we've got it right in different departments. So then, if it goes well, or even if it doesn't, you can identify the problem quite quickly. But if it does go well and Ruben Sellés gets poached, say we get promoted and he keeps us up over the next 2 years, his next step might be a Brighton or something like that. Well, we need to bring in somebody else then and slot them into our existing model. And it's not a case of everything Ruben Sellés has built has fallen apart. Because actually, no, it's the club structure. And we've resisted this because it's what Chris Wilder didn't want, from all accounts. He wanted to still have that involvement. And I think he has been a lot more adaptable this second time round. But in his true essence, he's an old school football manager. And I don't mean he can't move with the times, because there are certain things that he does very, very well. But I think and I'm speaking for him here, so I don't know for a fact, but I think he believes that the manager should have not the final say, but a real significant say on everything that goes on in a football club. So certainly since it's his club as well. Chris says, really, really good, Jimmy. Feel really good, Jimmy. Big Wilder fan, but time to move on to more intensive attacking football. Like Sayers' interview, need to get behind him and go again. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, mate. Drew says, reading Roy's view on Sayers, from the opinion was split. Positive talked about how he turned things around in difficult circumstances. Being tactically stubborn was the main negative. Interesting. Lisa's on a side note, Jim, love the new footer info comment bar. Looks very professional. Who did you get in to do it? It's a stream builder app, it's called Stream Builder. So yes, I did get people in to help me out building it. I gave them the color scheme, the sponsors, everything we need to do. So yeah, I would never try and fool people, Lee, that I was the man to set this up. There is a lot of support behind the scenes, and it's quite an expensive bit of kit. So thank you to everybody that continues to support the Ramble. We're always trying to level up, and if we feel this enhances our presentation, then that's what we want to do. It's worth the investment to get a better product out there. Let's just hope the presenter can get up to speed with those sort of levels. Ben says, morning, Jimmy. Feeling more positive about this morning after hearing some of the things said about Sayers. I think the transfers are going to be really obscure, but I'm excited to see what happens next. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles, like and subscribe. All aboard the Spanish Armada, says Josh. Andy says, morning, Jim. I just hope Ruben doesn't act like Manuel from Faulty Towers, showing my age. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. I know nothing. I am from Barcelona. Chris says, with the Americans in charge, are we ready for a new name for the ground? It will always come. It will come. Always will be Bramall Lane to me, whatever they rename it. That is, it's a big negative for me, Chris, to be honest. But I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to grounds. I wouldn't want to move grounds. I wouldn't want to rename the ground. But like Andy the Blade always says to me, if you can't change it, pal, why are you worrying about it? Why are you worrying about it? And he's right. He's right. We can't necessarily change anything about it. Whatever's going to happen will happen. It will always be Bramall Lane. I think the fans will always call it Bramall Lane, even if it is the Taco Bell Arena. Catching up on this stream, I would advise you to jump to 10 minutes in Aqua, if I'm honest, pal. The fitness question is interesting. How much was Wilder able to exert due to the facilities and the physical abilities of the team? At times this season, it reminded me of the injury crisis under Hecky. Would Sayers be able to affect that? He is high intensity, making sure they are fit. I think that's a huge positive in terms of him coming in. I don't think it will be accepted that anybody is below the required fitness levels. We were more successful in Wilder's first stint because we were fitter than everybody else. And that was a huge, huge thing in our favour. Chris Basham was the fittest man on the pitch, no matter who we played. He got up and down. He had on the opposite side, he had the beast that was Jack O'Connell getting up and down. The wing backs we had, Ender Stevens and George Baldock, could go all day, and those were the most stamina-driven positions that we had in our team at that point. And those four particularly, everybody was fit in that side, but those four in particular were incredible in terms of their stamina and fitness. We haven't had anything like that this season. Gusema starts rubbing his hamstring on 70, 75. I love Gusema. I think he's the best player in the league. But there's a reason that teams are not absolutely like chucking 25 million quid at us, because there are negatives to his game as well. I think he's not looked fit for the majority of the season. A fit Gusema that can play 90 minutes gets you promoted. He's that good. He's that good. But we've not seen that this season. And when he has been on it, nobody can touch him. No one can touch him in this league. Ian, I'm not sure whether you are able to do this on here, but we need to get rid of no smoke without fire. Aqua says, do we need the facilities indoor to best support that, or would the data recruitment improve the general availability and fitness of our team going forwards? Everybody's looking forward to the upgrades at door, pal, as and when they are due to come, which we don't know yet, do we, currently? And I don't know. I think the data and AI will tell you about a player's stamina and how they can get up and down the field and what their engine's like. But keeping them fit when they're at Sheffield United is a different kettle of fish, isn't it? We've got to get our processes in line and our fitness programs in line. So, yeah, it's making sure our house is in order rather than making sure we can bring in the fittest player we can find. You can soon lose fitness, can't you, if you're not operating appropriately. Bryce says, morning, Jimmy. At least the Ramble is still here. Absolutely right, mate. He'll always be here. Do you have any ideas on names mentioned for transfers? I've heard whispers of 2 young Spurs lads. Yeah, it's been circulated now. I think Daniel reported on it. Ash Phillips from Spurs, who was a Blackburn centre half. They bought him when he was quite young, a couple of years ago. I think now he's only 19. And he's played out on loan at Plymouth and Stoke. If we're buying him, I think it's a really good buy. If we're loaning him, I'm not convinced. And the other one was Alfie Devine, who can play in the 10. He's played on loan with Blaster at Port Vale. I think he's also been on loan at Plymouth at some stage. And I think he was at Westerlo. But again, our 10-minute transfers will return probably tomorrow. and we'll touch on some of these targets, pal. We didn't do one yesterday and we didn't do one today. And I appreciate I said we'll try and do one throughout June. But I also, the overriding thing on the channel is we'll never just put stuff out for the sake of it. So if there was nothing to talk about, I'm not going to force, a rumour onto people that weren't happening. And obviously it was superseded by other news that were coming through. But we're going to resume the 10-minute transfers probably tomorrow and talk about certainly those two players and anybody else that might have been rumoured in recent times. So Rob says, I think I'm as big of a Wilder fan as you, Jimmy. Still absolutely gutted. I think Selles will do okay. Gave us a game in both games last year. Don't like how he likes to play out from the back, though. I think the owners will throw money at him to try and justify the appointment. Yeah, possibly. And it'll be interesting to see how he copes, won't it, with money in his disposal. Do you think a new manager changes whether Anel, Gus, Vinny, etc. stay up the Blades? No, I don't think it hugely influences. It might, because these are big factors for players, but I don't think it will ultimately be the decision. I think money usually comes into it, if we're honest. I don't think Gus will leave. I'm not saying there isn't interest, because obviously there's always interest in your really good players. I don't think Gus goes. And that's just my opinion on it. As I've said, I think Vinny and Nell, Vinny will have loads of interest just because of the profile of the player. And Anel is in the last year of his contract. So we may be exploring, if he doesn't want to sign, do we want to move him on? Possibly. Bittersweet, says Dan, for Wilder, because he improved us so much that it meant a new consortium wanted to buy the club. Hang on, I've just been flicked away from that point. Meant a new consortium wants to buy the club, but I'm sure he will be proud of his Blades managerial career. Absolutely. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, mate. Michael says, in reality, it has to hit the ground running. The Blades can't afford to be off the pace, but they have to be well in the mix. If not the top two, then they have to be strongly challenging the top two. But we did that last season, didn't we, Michael? We did that last season. It's a huge gamble, Huge gamble, but one that we're all hoping pays off. Alessandro says, I just think a second season of Championship rebuild with Wilder, it would have been successful. Says he's a good coach, but board have heaped pressure on him. It has to be automatic or bust. Yeah. Lee Edridge with a £10 super chat. Thank you, pal. Please like and subscribe to the Blades Ramble and Behind the Ramble if you already haven't. It's free to do and helps this fantastic channel out. Lee, you are an absolute legend. Thank you, mate. You don't have to do that. You do enough for this channel. So thank you, mate. Very much appreciated. It kind of feels like they passed each other in the corridor. It does. Bryce says, for me, it was how the night unfolded. It seemed a bit of a lack of class. But the other way of looking at it, Bryce, and I thought that was my initial reaction. And I was disappointed. And I'm more disappointed with the fact that we haven't had a presser and the opportunity for the local press to question a lot of things that are happening at the club at the minute. Because I think it doesn't have to be huge scrutiny. There might be answers that we all appreciate, because I think they've spoken well in the written statements. And I thought the same as you, Bri, when the bang, 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 bang all came out one after the other. However, it's a bit like ripping a plaster off, isn't it? And like I said, speaking to my mountain this morning, speaking to other people in the chat last night, I can understand. I think Jay said as well in our chat, I can see why they've done it so quickly. I can see that they just want to set the stall out as soon as they can now. Everybody knows the decision's been made. This is the new direction we're going in. Let's all get on board. Let's all go for it together. And it's just a different way of looking at it. Chris Wilder will rightly get his flowers from the fan base, whether he gets time, that time allocated by the club. It's business, but he will always be revered by the Sheffield United fan base, and so he should, by the way. Best manager I've ever seen at the Lane. Thank you, Drew, for being a member for 20 months. It don't actually show you on here, I don't think, but it's showing me in the comments. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Top man. Scott says, be interesting to see which way we go with transfers now. Will they be on a Cannon level? Will it be invest in the future, such as Divine and Phillips? A mix of both? No one knows yet. Let's get to pre-season. Yeah, let's get to pre-season. That's going to be really interesting, isn't it? LH says, Harley Dean on Under the Cosh is a good listen on Ruben Sellés. It will be a massive change in style of play. I can see a number of players like Robbo, Moore, dare I say even Hamer, really struggling. No, you don't dare say it. Thing is, Gus Hamer, if he's not able to get to the levels in terms of fitness, then he might not play as much of a part. He is an absolute gem of a player at championship level. He will definitely be involved. No, I've no concerns with that. But I think it may be a bit of a reality check for some of them. I don't think Moore and Robbo particular. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, mate. No more Premier League, says Donna and Romeo Smalley. Oh, I assume they're related somehow. Never see Premier League again. That's what's going to happen. Go back into League. We'll go back into League One. I think that's very extreme, to be honest. Ruben, say yes. Will be Ruben say no pretty quickly if we don't win games. Dave coming in with the dad jokes. Love that. Stop being so negative, says Scott. Mate, it's people's opinion. And we don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. But they're entitled to come on and have their say. That's no problem. Matt says, morning, Jimmy. Hope you're good, pal. After yesterday, be fair to say, is coming in, comes across good and talks a good game. Just hope we don't use AI for all the transfer targets. Up the Ramble, up the Blades. Talking a good game means very little, doesn't it, in the grand scheme? But I do think it buys people time and a little bit of respect. So hopefully he plays as well as he talks, because I too was impressed with what he had to say. Cooler King says, even as a neutral, this is exciting. Is it just me, or do some of the players featured in the 10-minute transfers sound a bit ordinary? Fully expecting Sayers to go in a completely different direction. Now, this is what I wanted someone to bring up. So the players that we mentioned in the 10-minute transfer, I'll leave that on actually, but the players mentioned in the 10-minute transfers have all had legitimate links to United. There's been something in a paper, whether it or a news report somewhere. There has always been a link. So some are stronger than others, obviously, but we're talking about players like Harry Darling, Jimmy Dunn. There's other players mentioned throughout, as we know. Those two in particular. And initially, I'm in this boat as well. I'm a United fan. I'm emotional first and foremost. So I can, and when I'm on stream, I just go in my gut anyway, my gut feeling on stuff. But having had time to think about it and spoken to some people about how they, and what I'm talking, I don't mean spoken to people at the club or anything like that. I mean just spoken to people in our chat and other United fans. Harry Darling is a good championship player. And I'm not going against anything I've said on either of these two players, by the way, but this is perspective. So he's a good championship player, Harry Darling. He was available on a free. Swansea did well. His numbers stack up. Would have improved our squad, undoubtedly. Maybe not started, but I think he's a good addition. He's gone to Norwich. Spoke to my mountain this morning. He says, Norwich will finish below us. And he's chosen to go there over Sheffield United. Or we've chosen to pull the rug out on the deal. We don't know which is true of those elements. Is Harry Darling a player that we would want to go to the Premier League with? Well, my counter to that is, it's not about whether they're a Premier League player. It's whether they can get you to the Premier League. So if you think he can improve you, then you sign him, or you try and sign him. But there's also the argument that we could sign a player better than Harry Darling from abroad, Horatio Darlinho. It might cost a little fee, might be 500 grand, but he might be on half the wages, and he might be 21, and he might end up being a much better player. Esteve and players like this that Burnley have brought in, they've done a lot of loan to buys on permanence, which is another smart method of doing it. There will always be better options out there. It's just not always that easy to find. Jimmy Dunn has re-signed for QPR. I thought he was an absolute shoo-in for everything we were about as a club. But everything we're about as a club is flipped on its head, isn't it now? We're going in a new direction. We are potentially adopting a completely... Jimmy Dunn wanted... QPR fans can push back on this all they like. Jimmy Dunn, to Sheffield United, was Jimmy Dunn. Chris Wilder had sorted that. It were all sorted. Good to go. Just push the button. He wanted to come to Sheffield United. I believe, and I've no substance to this, but it's just my opinion, we've pulled the plug on that deal. We've pulled it because I reckon we'll have had to offer him a good wedge to move and relocate. QPR wanted to keep him, so they'll chucked some brass at him as well, but Wheeler topped it. And I think we've pulled it. because I think we can get better. I think we think as a club we can get better elsewhere. And the perspective that was given to me was, well, if he's that good for this level, he's certainly untested in the Premier League. If he's that good for this level, yes, he's played well for QPR this season. Why is he re-signed for QPR, who are a mid-table championship side at best at the moment? You know, not many ambitions that they're going to be pushing at the same level as Sheffield United. But not only that, where was the interest from Southampton or Leicester or Ipswich or Cov or anybody that's expected to be in and around the top end? Where was the hard push to get Jimmy done? And there wasn't, or there can't have been, because he'd be there. So maybe we get blinded in Sheffield United type players, Chris Wilder type players. I still think Jimmy Dunn would have been a great signing for Sheffield United. That is my personal opinion. But maybe he's not the caliber or the type of player that Ruben Selles sees in this Sheffield United team. Maybe he wants more of a Femi Sariki type player. I know we've got Femi Sariki. Oh, hang on. What's he saying? Connor has sent us a super chat. I've not got to it yet, mate. That's why it don't get read out. I can't see it. And I've lost my place now. That's all your fault. But he may want more of a Femi Sariki type player, more of an athlete than Jimmy Dunn. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those. We'll have to wait and see. Mim says, I fully agree with the transfers outside the usual areas. Surely you can't tell me there aren't strikers as good as Cannon out there for a fraction of the price. I do actually like Cannon, unlike most. Me too, Mim. Matt says, do you think Sayers will have an input in the transfers who he wants and not who they want? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do think that. Connor, you haven't sent me a super chat, pal. You haven't sent me a super chat. I think he'll... it sends you right to the bottom. That's annoying. I think he'll have a say. I don't think he'll come with a big list. I think he'll be presented with players and be asked his opinion. It'll be the most likely way it happens. H from Steps, welcome back. Tragedy, he says, morning, Jim and ABR. All Blades Ramble, I assume. King is dead. Long live the king. We might not all agree on the decision, but this is Sheffield United. Life being a Blades fan. Absolutely. I still think Cannon will come good. Yeah, me too, Bri. Me too. Two massive dressing room figures in Robinson and Brewster. I think we'd do well to keep one. Ideally, Brewster for me. Yeah, possibly. I don't think it'll happen, to be honest. I don't think it'll happen, Mim. I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll both go. If we can get a buyer for Robinson, I think they'll go. H says, when you look back at the running, Wilder did make us all doubt his selections, so the board might have scratched their heads. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that we can look back to Chris Wilder's time with the club and question. And what you can't question is the points return. So as much as you can pick holes in little bits and bats throughout, what you can't question is that. Oh, here we go. Apologies. Connor sent me a super chat on the previous stream last night, and he put, rough out that, lads, up the Ramble. That was a £5 super chat from One Leeds, which I appreciate, and I didn't get to because I didn't read all the comments, but I should have checked the super chat. So apologies to Con. Nobody else sent a super chat after we'd gone, after we closed the stream. So thank you to Connor for that. All joking aside, you all know Connor from our time on the One Leeds channel, and if you're not already, do support him if you can stand listening to him talking about Leeds. If you can't, you go to his Conor McGilligan channel and support him there, where he tries to be nice about every single club so he gets more people come over. Where were we? When you look back at the running, question some selections. Roy says, I wasn't shocked by the announcement, just relieved that they finally got it done. Like Paul Mountain, I'm looking forward, not backwards. Let's see where we go. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Thanks, Jimmy, for all you do for us. Up the Ramble. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, mate. We will get smoother on this, I promise. But it's first time behind the wheel, so maybe me and Christian have a chat and we get pushing buttons before we before, rather than me just clicking through everything and getting it wrong. I'm quite worried about going all in on an AI data-driven approach, as we need to consider team cohesion, and introducing the vast majority of new signings from foreign leagues could be problematic. Maybe this is another reason why a European coach has been brought in, essentially, who I'm sure can speak several languages. Maybe this is part of the thinking, that we are trying to integrate more nationalities into the squad, longer term vision. Rich, it's daunting because it's new for us. I get it, pal. But we have to try, don't we? We have to try. You've mentioned that Wilder did have his favourites, Jackie Longthroat. How could he put him in front of Holding? Exactly. When they say new direction, do they mean we're going to go become a swimming team or a rugby club? H says, I'm excited with the new way Sellés gets it, the new way if Sellés gets the backings. He tore us apart when Hull played us up the Ramble. You say he tore us apart. There's obviously been a lot of back and forth in our Ramble chat about this appointment and the whole situation. Some are for, some are against. There's points being given both ways, which we always encourage and enjoy. But the stats have been put up in our group as well of that whole game. And it was a bit of a smash and grab in terms of, we had the majority of possession, we had more shots on target. Everything is mostly red, apart from the stat that matters. That doesn't mean it wasn't a brilliant result for Hull. And he basically, I would still say he got the game plan absolutely bang on, because he did. And he beat us, and he beat us well. But that was part of it. So I'll let Sheffield United have it, let them come on to us. And they don't create much. So they're not going to be as much of a threat as we think. King says, I don't think the owners like the style of play. That's why they changed. Double L in Spanish is pronounced as a Y. So it's Selles up the Ramble. Thank you, Michael. All owners are business people. Even Chansiri doesn't mean they know football. That's true. Very true. And that's going to get tested into it. I think the consortium, and particularly the owners themselves, have never claimed to be the most football-minded people, the most aware of how the game works. It's just, have they surrounded themselves with the right people for giving them advice? And only time will tell. Lefty says, I've got a feeling you guys won't be top of the table this season. No way, Ruben. Not that type of attacking manager. He's more defensive and low block. Should have stuck with Wilder. Good luck. Thank you, Lefty, mate. Love the transfer updates on the right of the screen. It's brilliant. Yeah, me too. Me too. It says, plus, Jim, your Blades Ramble is brilliant and keeping me bright with the future, especially down here in South East London. We try, mate. Look, it's a balance. And thank you for that kind comment, but we always try and strike a balance of, I'll always be honest with you, and I'll always tell you how I genuinely feel. But I do try and not spin it, but I always try and look at the positives if we can. We have lost the best manager I have ever seen. So it hurts, and it's something to get my head round. But there's always an alternative argument to say it's for the best. And whether I agree with that or not, we have to consider all opinions and talking about it on streams like this. I know it's not for everybody, and I know we always go along, particularly with important subjects, but a lot of others like what we do in terms of hearing all sides of the argument. And I genuinely feel like it's quite cathartic at times to talk through big situations like this as well. So thank you, mate. I appreciate your kind words. Matt says, we've spent big money before on players like Brewster. Maybe the AI model will support the normal scouting method. The game is constantly changing, and time for us to change with it. Yeah, I think so, Matt. At the end of the day, it's done, and we have what we have. We move on. Simples. Not heard simples for a while. Nice one, Bri. Benjamin Baboom says, do you know when the fixtures are released, Jim? Yes, we have already got a stream set up for that. That is Thursday the 26th, a week today at 12 o'clock. So I'll be going live at about 10 to, I think. Morning, says Home Funk. All. Hope I tuned into Sky Sports, Jim. Yeah, well, there you go. Look at this. Breaking news on the Ramble. Crazy, innit? Absolutely crazy. McGinger Fight Boy, still an option according to Bladesman. Is that Ollie McBurney? I don't know who you're referring to there, Josh. Super Positive Jack says, one thing's for sure, they'll have to back him. Right now, our squad does not fit his playing style. We blow out of our asses on 65 minutes. Yeah, we've touched on that, haven't we, pal? Dave Bassett has no previous connection to the club. Look how that went. Correct, Craig. Good point. Well made. Became an absolute club legend, club icon. The man that Wilder would say was the best ever Sheffield United manager, I'm sure. Stevie Brooks says, the big question for me is how will the squad react to the manner in which Wilder was sacked and treated? Whilst not Sellés' fault, a player revolt to some degree is a possibility. Don't think so, personally. According to Danny Hall, McBurney is still a target for the Blades. He's on a list compiled by James Board. James Board on the board. I'm not convinced that's a link. I don't know. I don't know. Is the total honest answer. Would we be against McBurney coming back? No, personally. If he's coming in on a free and he is third or fourth option, which he would be behind Ty Campbell and Tom Cannon, and battling out with Kiefer Moore for that substitute striker role, I don't think it's a bad move, personally. We've talked about this before. He's not. If you're looking for a new striker, he's not topping your list. But if you're looking for a supplementary striker to complement your squad because you've already got big players in that position, then I think he's a good signing. Jack says, also I'm using AI and data for bringing in young talent, but you're all for it, but you need experience. Imagine sacking the manager and selling Hamer in the same window. Don't worry about that. D says, now then, Jim, would CW still have got the sack if we'd won? They clearly wanted him out. Some of them clearly wanted him out. I'm not sure everybody was 100% convinced. And no, I don't think you can sack. They might have done. Again, unproven as a board, but they, and we've not heard from them, so we don't really know the thought process other than the written statements that I think are well written, to be honest, but we don't know much else about them. But you've got to say 92 points winning the playoffs. That would have been enough to at least give you a go in the Prem. Owen Funk says, excited by the appointment. More excited that it was Hassan Hootel's assistant for his best years at the Saints when they were a very good gig and pressing side. That's a Football Manager term if I've ever heard it. I know it's outside of Football Manager, but I know your game. The manager shouldn't be king. He should be the main man at the club framework, but replaceable by a similar manager. I think removing Wilder is more about building that club framework with a director of football to be a modern, successful club that is needed. Completely agree. Completely agree with that point, Home Funk. Well said. First task for Sayers, Brewster contract and McBurney signing. Completely disagree. Dave says, any word on the future of other coaches, Jack Lester and Matt Duke? Both were at the club, I think. And Matt Duke, I think. But certainly Jack Lester was at the club before Wilder's second stint. So I would be surprised if it'll be up to new manager, I think. It'll be up to the new manager because he already said that he was bringing another coach in. Is that to replace one of these existing boys? Not entirely sure yet, are we? David says, most of these fans mourning weren't around when Adrian Heath was in charge. Gutted about Wilder, but excited about this appointment. Michael says, Jimmy, I've yet to see you in that Leeds shirt Connor got for you. Well, you didn't watch me then, did you? I'm not wearing it on Ramble, and that was never the agreement. No way. I wore it on a Conor McGilligan stream with a slight twist. So there you go. Got some stick from Leeds fans, but I wore it. That was the deal. I wore it on stream, and I did exactly that. Paella, says Ian. Paella. Oh yeah, paella. Sorry, did I say paella? No, all caps, please. Bry the caps police. Lee says, I wonder if there's any chance we could pick up Dan Ashworth as a director of football. Weren't he linked to? Is it Everton he's been linked to already? Worked at West Brom and Brighton before moving to bigger teams in Newcastle and Man U. May need a project to re-establish himself. Mate, that would be such a coup. Such a coup to get Dan Ashworth in. He'd be more like a technical director or a sporting director. But in all honesty, I don't know the difference between all three titles. Don't know what the differences are. It would be such a coup to get that, but I'm pretty sure he's been linked with Everton. We'll see, though. We'll see. Get Gilchrist back in and Sayers brought in that Barry lad to Hull. We'll probably see more of that quality. This is a point I raised this morning. When you look at it, he brought in Louis Barry against significant competition. There were loads of championship clubs after Louis Barry, and it were a bit of a, we were talking about it as a club. Should it be Louis Barry or Ben Brereton Diaz? I think a lot of us lean towards Ben Brereton Diaz because he were more proven in the championship. But Louis Barry, had he not had that ACL, I think it was his first game for Hull, something like that. He'd been flying in League One for Stockport, and Sayers got him to Hull. So there is a worry for me was, will Wilder be able to convince players? Will we be able to convince players to come now that Wilder's not here? Because a lot of players sign for Wilder. He's a very good leader of men, a motivator. It convinces a lot of people to go with him. Will that be a problem? Well, Sayers has proven he can also get high-level targets over the line, comparative to your club. Jimmy hasn't done sign an extension at QPR. Yes, he has. More power to him. It will be progress, even if it's 2 or 3 years in the making, says Jimmy. New structure, new approach. While they're getting us promoted, would not have ended well. Yes, Michael, says Bry. I don't know what to. Sayers is a horrible appointment, in my opinion, says Josh. Should have just kept Wilder if that was the case. We'll see, won't we? We'll see. I think that's the whole point. Let it play out. With the loan signing and players that Sheffield United were linked to under Wilder, would you say that it's likely to change under Sayers, as he will target different players that he is keen on? Complete change. Complete change now. Scrap all the names that were previously linked and previously very close. There'll be no John Joe Kenny. Clearly no Jimmy Dunn or Harry Darling. None of those players will come in. Hamza Chowdhury's probably... I know we chose not to sign him, but were we renegotiating behind the scenes? Not entirely sure. It'll be a completely clean page now. Fresh set of paint, or whatever the saying is. Do we all need to brush up on our school Spanish, Jim, so chants can be sung for Ruben Selles? Possibly, mate. I never did Spanish at school. I did French, but viva la Selles. J-Bod says, hope we're bringing some players soon. I think we're in for an exciting season. There you go. Some people are already starting to look at the positives of it. Carlo says, so if this new guy comes in and starts getting funds for his type of players, what a smack in the eye for Wilder. Some will always look at it like that. And we'll never know, is the true answer, Carl, isn't it? We'll never know whether, say Sayers gets 20 million to go and build a squad in his own image, plus the money from a sale of Vinny Souza, for example, or Sidney Peck. We'll never know what Wilder could have done with that 35, 40 million in the Championship, will we? We'll never know. And some will always say, even if we finish top at league, and this is the challenge that Ruben's got in front of him now, he could finish top, and people would say, yeah, but if Wilder were backed like Sayers has been, he'd have finished top as well. But we're never going to know, ultimately, and we've just got to get behind the man that we've got. Any truth in the Tottenham duo that we've been linked with, Jimmy? Yes, I believe so, pal. I strongly believe so. And a couple of others as well. Well, we mentioned the Hungarian right back and maybe one more at the moment. And that will continue to rumble on, I think. Rumble on. Wilder's number one hater says, nobody was happier than me to see Wilder leave the club. However, I feel his appointment is a sideways or even backwards step. Max says, will there be a press conference, Jimmy? Don't think so, mate. Don't think so. What it does mean is I've got to go and change 46 thumbnails of Hot Off the Presser, probably after this, because they were all preloaded and ready to go. And it's all got Chris Wilder's mug all over them for next season. I could see Sayers bringing back Slater to the lane. No, not for me, Andrew. I love Regan Slater as a kid, but I don't think he's a top Championship player. Played 44 games for Sayers last season. His type of player. When did he come in last season at Hull? He didn't play the full season, did he? He didn't manage for the full season, I don't think. Like the new layout, pal. Thank you, Max. Matt says, looking very professional now, Jimmy. Loving the new comment section, giving Mark Goldbridge a run for his money. Well, Goldbridge can come on down, can't he? If he wants a piece. Up the blades, up all the rambles. Loving the Uber vids too, pal. Keep up the great work, everyone involved. Thank you, Matt. The Uber vids going really well. Thank you to everybody that continues to support him. The latest one I've got to edit because I need to get it out tonight. It was really poor lighting. So I apologize to anybody that sees it and thinks, what is going on here, Jim? We cannot, it's content's all right, but we can hardly see you because I did it another night shift. Well, I've just bought a light today. So every episode after this one that you'll see tonight, hopefully if I can get it edited in time, will have much better lighting. So prepare yourselves for a little bit of a, where is he? What is this all about? Hopefully we've sorted that problem already. Taco Ballerina, I'm up for that with free paella at halftime, says Chris. Carl says, if Sayers is such a good coach, why isn't or why hasn't he been picked for a team in Spain? One asks. Near mind, soft touch Sheffield United are available. Remember, they gave Porterfield a 10-year contract. I can't judge a manager on what he's done at Hull, personally. You look at Liam Rosenior, got sacked by Hull, is now in Europe playing European football with Strasbourg, from what I understand. So, Carl, there's no I can say to you, pal, is there, other than we have to wait and see. I understand your feelings towards it, understand it completely, and there'll be a lot of people feeling the same way. But this is the situation we're in as Blades, isn't it now? And we have to suck it and see, as they say. Dave says Sayers ticks all the owners' boxes, but it's not all much use if you can't win games of football. And he hasn't really done that in his previous jobs. That's my concern. He certainly did it at Reading. I think he had a 45% win percentage with a patchwork squad, having similar problems to Wendy's. He got an injury blighted Hull, like 13th, 14th in the form table. Their defence was 4th after the top 3 in the league. That's what saved him, essentially. They were bottom at league when he came in, and he got him to safety. There are positives. Carl says Taco Bell Arena sounds about right. Why not call it Disney World while you're at it? What about Tyler Morton from Liverpool? We can look at players individually all we like, Ben, but we don't know whether it's going to fit the new model, can we? So me and Dave were going to go live last night and talk about midfielders. Well, we can't look at targets because we don't know what sort of ballpark we're shopping in at the moment. We will soon when names start to come out, because you'll be able to sort of get a vibe as to which way we're going with it. What me and Dave are going to be doing, and I don't know when we'll get a chance to go live with that video again, but we're going to be doing a squad assessment, continuing that squad assessment of rating players out of 5 and doing 2 players in each position to get a mark out of 10 on squad depth and what we'll need going forward. MP Electrical says, Sayers mentioned a few times players out of contract. How many are out? I can only think Brewster. Loved Wilder. He's a club legend. I don't think his antics after the derbies will have gone down well with the owners, even though we loved it. Maybe not. That's fair. And even some of our fans push back on it a little bit. Not many. Dave the knows. But yeah, some people that feel that you should be operating to a high level as a manager of a professional football club. I loved it personally. And, I think that's part of the game. In terms of players out of contract, I think he was referring to potential targets, that there's a lot of players out of contract. That seems to be the way now. Players run contracts down. We've got a Nell next season who will be doing the same if we don't sell him. Nate says, also gutted to see Jimmy Dunn has agreed to sign a new deal with QPR. Yeah, I can understand that, pal. Chris says, Jimmy, when the new season starts, when you're doing a watch along, why not have the latest scores going along the bottom if you're able to? I like to keep up with what's going on around the country. All part of it, pal. There's a thing here that will come up, which will tell you there'll be a scoreboard over my head here. There'll be a sidebar here that tells you what stats during the game and all. There'll be I think here, where the done deals is, will be the latest scores ticking over. So it's all part of the plan, Chris. Don't you worry, pal. I'm hungry and can see some. Can someone spare some food? Okay. Might need to see if we can get some mods sorted out on this, whether they're able to do that or not. I'm not sure. Do you think the new owners will sell our best players and sign unknown younger players from abroad or our lower leagues? No, I don't think the new owners will sell the best players. I think we might have to lose 1 or 2 that we don't want to lose, but that would have happened under Chris Wilder anyway. Jackie Longthrow's time may be up, says Paul. Really not sure about Sayers, but seems AI driven. But just because AI says numbers are good, don't mean they can play together. That's right. I agree with that. Loving the new layout, Jimmy. Spot on, says Matt. Thank you, mate. We're getting there now. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable in driving seat. It says Misty on air sign in the background and new screen setup is awesome. Thank you, mate. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Come on, you red and white wizards. Matt says, imagine if we got rid of Wilder a week ago and announced Sayers yesterday, everyone would have been saying, not being handled well, should have had someone ready to go straight away. That's exactly what my mountain said this morning when I spoke to him. It was like, the club cannot win in some ways. This were always going to be a controversial decision, so it's difficult to see how best to handle it. Anyone decent at Hull City who Sayers may go back for up the Ramble? I like Charlie Hughes, who we talked about previously in a Ruben Sellés video. What if it's Sayers? We looked at a couple of players that he could go back for, and Stephen Alzate, who was at Brighton, midfielder who was at Brighton previously. They signed him on a free. I think he's a really cultured player. Bob says everyone wants to be Brentford and Brighton until we get owners that want to be like Brentford and Brighton. Well said, Bobby. Well said, mate. That's fair. A big thank you to Chris. But onwards we go under Sayers, says Rob, embracing the change in direction. And to me, his interview came across very positive and excited for what's to come on the pitch. Up the Blades, up all the rambles, like and subscribe. Just joined, love the new setup. Thank you, Danny Boy. Hats off for the info. Hopefully we don't get linked to old players now. New manager, new start. Thank you, Tazzy Pal. Scum away, Scum Army 249 says a director of football should have been announced earlier. Clubs really struggle without structure. An AI model don't always work. I think you have to bring in new recruitment staff to match the AI. Horatio Darlino. Yeah, I know. I made myself laugh sometimes, Bri, unfortunately. Sam says, I rate Ruben Sellés personally. Definitely has performed excellently in circumstances at Hull and Reading. So, yes, I miss Wilder, but but absolutely 100% support Sellés. No negative vibes from me. Love that. Luke says, you never please everyone. But imagine if we went for a commercial move and went for Gerrard or Rooney. Oh, God. No, thanks. Sayers is one of a few who are decent and available at this moment in time. Bold, good business. Max says, do you think we would have gone for Sayers if he was still at Hull, e.g. pay compo for him? They clearly really liked him, and I know that they really liked him from early on. I don't know whether that's played a part, the fact that he is available now, that we go and get him, but I tend to lean towards, I think they'd made a change anyway, but Sayers has always been, well, by some on the board, the number one choice. So, yeah, they really like him. So who's to know? We'll never know the answer to that question, Max, really, will we? But Dave says, if we have a director of football with presumably more power over transfers than the manager, then he needs to be a good one. Absolutely right. That's probably more key than the manager appointment, because that oversees how the club does its business that directly affects on the pitch. It's a really, really important appointment. Aaron says we overperform. One, we overperform based on underlying stats. Two, the new owners don't want to rely on one influential manager. And three, Wilder made questionable tactical and transfer decisions that cost us promotion. All valid points. Subjective, but all valid points. Well, the stats aren't subjective, are they? Max says, do you think Sayers will go after anyone from Hull? Charlie Hughes has been mentioned. Charlie Hughes has been mentioned by me speculatively. I haven't seen an official link anywhere. I certainly haven't heard that we're going to go back to Hull for anybody. But Charlie Hughes would make sense to me. Young centre-half, high upside, maybe. H says, I've recently purchased a Blades Ramble t-shirt and proudly wearing it down in southeast London. Not popular with the in-laws. They're all Millwall. Like and subscribe. Up the Ramble. Thank you, pal. Very much appreciated. Phil says, you can't blame him, but what a terrible decision. So what you think, Phil? Nice one, H says, Bright. Lee says, the fanfare over Hull winning one game against United is amazing. Sample size is full season, not 90 minutes. The new guy sounds corporate. So very much a yes man. Toes the line. Enjoy being the new Stoke. Disagree, Lee. You're entitled to your opinion, pal, and I know you clearly feel strongly about it, and that's absolutely all right. How on earth can you say he sounds corporate, so he's very much a yes man? We've no idea. You've no idea. I've no idea. It might be a yes man. It might be saying, actually, can I have this player? Or I'd like to set the team up this way, or I'd like, and they might say no. But we don't know that, do we? We don't know that. Jimmy, stop putting yourself down, man. You're doing great. Thank you, mate. It just, I'll get there. Big T says, I know we're going full on with this AI thing, but I remember a time when we couldn't get a fax machine working. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's not run before we can walk, Eton. I agree with you there, pal. This guy, whose name I can't read, apologies, says, I think there's a misconception of what AI-driven means. Do we think that the manager won't give new players the eye test too? I am Makis, by the way. Thank you, Makis. Very much appreciated. I love Wilder. Feels strange without him, but I'm excited for what's coming, if I'm honest. Yeah, I think so too. Welcome to the Ramble, Makis, says Bry. Max says, apparently Chris was asked by the Prince and COH Sports to stop playing three at the back during pre-season last year. I don't believe that. Unless I hear it from a very credible source, I would push back on that significantly. for everything that I am aware of, and I remember I don't just do one side of it, the board have never directly tried to influence the way that the team plays. And I would be shocked. They've questioned decisions and non-involvement and things like that. However, they have never said you must or please don't play this way, or they might have said, why are you playing three at the back if it's not working? But Chris Wilder and few of us will know Chris Wilder personally, but from what we know of Chris Wilder, do you honestly think he would be told how to play his team? It wouldn't. It wouldn't. I'm slowly getting used to the new graphics, Jimmy, and hope it works well for you. Let's all get behind Ruben Sellés. Up the blades, all the rambles. P.S. Has H bought his new house yet? Don't know who we're referring to. Do you mean H from Steps in Comments? Do you mean H Harrison Burrows? It's Hamer? Don't know. Liam says, one of the OG subscribers. Thank you, mate. Great to see the new studio and the new setup, Jimmy. Look at the Rossini since leaving Hull. How's he thrived and done really well in France? Hopefully Sayers does the same. Thank you, Liam. Appreciate your support, pal. Good to see you. Ross Clark says, I commented on the owner's daughter's post saying Wilder is a great blade, but I don't know if he's the manager we need next season. Please tell your dad this. And she hearted my comment. Now I feel guilty. Please tell my dad this. My dad's a Wilder man. And look, we will get him on Talking Sense with Andy the Blade. Undoubtedly, he will want to come on and have his say. That doesn't mean he doesn't think it's right for a change. I need to speak to him properly about it, and we'll probably do a lot of that on stream. But like me, we are Chris Wilder boys. Huge fans of what he's done for the football club. Mark says, morning, Jimmy. Just on break at work, loving the new banner and setup. First day of the Ruben Sellés era. It is what it is. Up the Ruben Sellés, up the Ramble, up the very positive Meldrew. Interesting. Yes, it's actually new era for Sheffield United, new era for the Ramble with this layout. Look at this. Must admit, I'm not excited by recent events, but at the end of the day, Sayers is the current Blades manager, and I'm 100% behind him, as I would sausage roll even if it was him. Oh, can you imagine? Rich says, isn't Jack Lester the striker coach? Perhaps could do with some new ideas in that department. Yes, he works predominantly with the forwards, Rich. So maybe that might be an area we'll look at. But Jamie Ward was recently on Under the Cosh, and he praised Jack Lester for the way he improved his game when they were at Sheffield United together. He wasn't a coach; they were playing together then. But in a roundabout, jokey way, he certainly praised Jack Lester for simplifying a lot of the things that strikers do. Our academy manager, Nick Cox, is going to Everton. Just seen it on Twitter. Nick Cox hasn't been our academy manager for years, pal. I think, hasn't he been at Man U? I may be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure Nick Cox left us to go to Man U about 5 years ago. And if he's going to Everton, then fair enough. More power to him. He did a lot of things right for United. CJ says, hey up, Jimmy. Just caught up on the stream last night. Can I just say the summer at the end from Dave the Nose was outstanding. Really well put, and something a lot of Blades should listen to. Thank you, mate. Always love listening to Dave the Nose. Think he's one of our more measured, the most measured contributor of all. He's a bit of a thinker, but he allowed himself to elaborate on that last night, and I thought he articulated it really well, which is why I went first, because I knew he'd do a better job than me, and he did. Luke Van Dome says, listen, Sayers is our new manager, so I have to back him and wish him success, as we love the club, but how Wilder has been treated is disgusting, and how any Blade could be happy he's gone baffles me. Yeah, I don't get the happy he's gone. I get the optimistic that we're moving in a new direction, and if that's the decision the club makes, then that's on them, and we'll get behind the new gaffer. But Wilder guarantees you success in the championship, or a high finish in the championship. I think he's a playoff minimum guarantee, and that's what we're gambling with here. So Dave Morwood says, loving the new setup, Jimmy, looking very professional now, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm being professional. That's fine, mate. That's fair. Skyblade says, we need some signature signings in the next couple of days for fans to get behind the owners and the new management. Shows what direction we're going in and finally move forward as a club. John Joe Kenny gone to PAOK in Greece. We can forget all the previous targets, Max. We can forget it. We scrap it, screw it up in a ball, chuck it away. New sheet of paper. Can only see us going one way now, and that's down. What a weird appointment. What do the kids say? Let them cook. Let's see how it plays out before we write them off. I can understand some pessimism, but we'll be there, won't we? We'll be supporting him either way. Wilder doesn't get the credit he deserves, says Luke. We could have gone down last season. Never mind, win 92 points. Crazy how well he did. Yeah, I agree, Luke. I love Luke's stuff as well. I don't know if you're still podding, Luke. Love your stuff, mate. Always think you do some really interesting content. Harvey says Wilder would have blown that 20 million on a bang average championship player. Scott says, morning, pal. Hope you're okay. I'm sure everyone will back him when it comes to Sellés. Save our Sellés. My worry will be if we don't start strongly, it'll turn fast in the stands. Hope we start moving in the market, up the blades, up the ram. I agree. I think it will turn quickly. They are under pressure to get off to a fast start. I'm worried some of the links you've heard, Jimbo, don't excite you. I'm sure more names will appear, but time will tell. Yeah, me too, pal. Love Wilder and always will for everything he's done for our club. Says Carl, I do think our and his club have to be bigger than one person. Up the blades, up the Ramble. David says, if we do get promoted next season, I have no doubt the gaffer will be in the crowd 100%. Yes, absolutely. Don't be surprised next season. We were saying it last night. If we're celebrating a goal and you turn and Chris Wilder's there jumping all over his mates because he's a blade, isn't he? He's a blade first and foremost. Chris says, blimey, I thought I'd put Sky Sports News on for a second. Love the new look, Jimmy. Keep up the good work, up the blades, up the Ramble. We are bumbling our way through it, Chris, but thank you, mate. Always trying to get better. Jim, I booted that food blog. We need to find a way for you to see what the mods are doing on YouTube, mate. I know, pal. We'll sort it. Thank you for your continued support in the chat. Stephen says, keep your chin up. Leeds United fan. Actually love your shout. I think Sheffield United will be all right this year. Good luck to you. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. True, Jim, and that's hopeful, but we need to win a lot more games than Reading or Hull. Pressure he's never faced yet. That's true, Dave. That's true. I'm literally having a bad feeling with the new manager. It says viral vibes. We'll see, though. We'll see. West Brom winning was the reason why Ruben Selles doesn't have 2 relegations on his CV. Hull only scored 1 goal in their last 8 games with a team that has a top 10 wage budget. Context. You listen to the Hull fans who, and some will always be for, some will always be against, but context needs to be applied in terms of who they had out injured, what they had available, what form and mindset they were in when he came into the club. I think it all needs to be taken into consideration. At least the club will save money on fines now, says Matt. Yeah. Do you know of any targets, Jimmy, that we have? Apparently bid for a striker, a centre-back and a right-back. The striker is more of a 10, and that's Alfie. These have all been revealed online, by the way, so I'm not breaking any confidences. The striker is more of a 10, but he can play like a second striker. That's Alfie Devine from Spurs, young lad, been on loan at Westerlo, or wherever it's called. Previously of Plymouth and Port Vale with Blaster. He's at Spurs now. The centre-back is Ash Phillips, also of Spurs, 19-year-old, was at Stoke last season, also previously played at Plymouth. And the right-back is a Bulgarian AI signing, first true signing for the first team. And whilst that may send shivers down some of our spines, Man Mountain rightly said to me in our early call this morning, if he's the new Vasper Bokis, all will be forgiven, won't it? We don't know what level we are going to be recruiting here. Alessandro says, don't dispute the European model. I don't dispute the European model, director of football model, and maybe it's a step we need to make a step up. But for that, you'd have to have wanted a coach with more pedigree, available coach, a Farioli or Motta to attract players. We'll see. I don't think we'll struggle to attract players, to be honest. Dave says, can't wait for director of football manager 2026 to come out. Stephen says, it's just all too soon. Feel hungover with grief. Baffling appointment, says Chris. Rich says, H from Steps, Jimmy. He was on Celebrity Escape to the Country. It's not the real H from Steps, Rich. He just calls himself H, so he always gets called H from Steps in the comments, just because I'm childish. CPTD says, it's a big call. Get behind Ruben. Don't believe in being negative before a ball is kicked, but we will need a fast start. Rob says, I'd be intrigued to know what Wilder's tactics to score goals were last season, though. Didn't seem to work. Kev says, I'm a Leeds supporter, Jim, and I still enjoy your content. Think you're mint. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. The content that we did with Connor McGilligan last year over on One Leeds has really sort of opened up that doorway to Leeds supporters coming over here, Blades going over there. And yeah, it's a real compliment to us all that that you stick around. So thank you, because obviously we're purely Blades content at the moment. Yeah, so thank you. It's appreciated. Al says, all the pressure is now on the new owners and the board, not the manager. Let's hope they've got it right. Yeah, the pressure can't be on the manager. It will be. But the pressure can't be on the manager. He hasn't chosen to make any of these decisions. He's accepted a ridiculously good opportunity for himself. And we back him, don't we? Sacking proven championship manager who got 90 points is a massive gamble, says Chris. And Bry says, keep it Ramble, people. Keep it Ramble. So that is the last comment. And now I have to wrap up for the first time on this new thing. So wish me luck. As I say, thank you to everybody that's joined us. Very much appreciated. Stick with us with this new layout. I know it looks class, or I certainly think it looks class. I will get better at operating it. So fingers crossed, stay with me. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Get behind this new manager. Up the Blades.